We're going to be looking at the basics of Python, but we're going to focus mainly on mathematics. The first thing we're going to look at is writing custom Python functions. So Python has a lot of built-in functions, of course, that we're going to use, but we're going to want to write our own custom functions. And let's take this particular one, an example right here. We're going to write the function, we're going to define our function. We're defining a custom function here that we're making, and we're going to call it f of x, and then y is equal to x plus 1, and we're going to return y and see what we get. Now you could just copy and paste this, and let's watch what happens when I do that. So because I will be posting this document online that you'll be able to obtain, just click on the link right below the video and it will take you straight to this document. When you bring up Python, you're going to probably, first thing should pop up is the shell, and what you'll want to do is go to File and click on New Window, and then of course I'm not going to do it, and then it'll bring up a new window which is going to look like this. But import math won't be here, but we're going to write import math then. I'm not sure we're going to use it yet, but we're going to go ahead and just import it in. Now I'm going to do a Control V. We did a cut and paste there. Copy and paste it. Now Python is extremely picky about what's called white space, and I remember when I was first doing Python, learning it, man, it about drove me nuts. The best thing to do is just type this in, have your cursor right there, and hit enter. Don't do anything but hit enter. And if you hit enter twice and then 3 times or whatever, and now you notice I did a backspace. Let me just get rid of this stuff here. Yeah, this white space thing about drove me nuts, because you're going to get a error if you don't have it written properly. So we want to hit enter, and this is where we want to start it. So I'm going to go ahead and get behind the Y here, actually, and I think that's probably the proper place. Now you can notice down here in the right hand column, or down here in the very right, bottom right, you see this right here where it says column 4. Okay, that could really help you out to let you know where you are located on the screen here. And then we're going to do just like that. Okay, now we just defined a custom function in Python, and you could go ahead and pronounce it like you'd pronounce it mathematically as f of x if you would like. Let's just go ahead and run this and find out what happens. So we want to go up to run, click on run module, and of course it says save, and I've got it saved to some file that probably needs to be changed in the name on that, but whatever. Okay, the way we're going to use this now, we're going to call it up. We're going to call the name of the function, and we need to put a number in there, and then close parentheses. So f of 5 is evaluated at 6, and then we could say f of 100, and we get 101. So as you can see, we plugged 100 in, and 100 plus 1 is 101. Now you can return, you can say return y, or we could do this actually. We could do print y. So let's try that. Go up to run, hit run module. Of course it's going to ask us to save our work. Now you hit an upward arrow key and we get the same thing. Now there's going to be a reason why we use print at the end or return. I'm going to go ahead and do return again, y. Let's define another function, custom function. We'll call this one g of x, and we'll say y is equal to, and in this particular one we're going to let's see, we're going to use math.power. We have math.pow. That's pow pow pow. No, just kidding. Um, let's do a +2. Now I'm going to do a comment out here, so everything after this pound sign or hashtag, whatever you want to call it, gets ignored. Right. So y is equal to, and the way this writes mathematically is x squared plus 2. If we wanted to change the power to a 3, 4, or 5, we would just put that number right in here. Right. So this is the built-in math module. And so as you can see, we have to bring in these custom functions that were made for this module. But anyway, now I don't think we've really talked about variables yet, but this equal sign here is an assignment operator, and whatever this becomes, y gets assigned that number, and that will become clear later on in the story. So variables are just like containers that store just one value at a time. And we'll be learning a lot about other containers that can store many values at one time. All right, we're going to now let's go ahead and do a print on this. So we're going to print y. Now you notice that we used x up here as a parameter. Okay, this is known as a parameter. And notice we used y here, so we're using x and y's in both functions, but that's okay because these are known as local variables, and as long as they're defined inside the function, we can reuse them again as long as they're defined inside the function. But if I were to come out here and define, for example, y, assign y5, this becomes a global variable. And we'll be talking more about that later. All right, where are we at? So I'm going to go ahead and run this, but we want to incorporate this function actually in this guy here, and let's do this. Let's put f of x. Let's put f of x here. So when we plug in, for example, 1, we're going to have 1 squared plus f of 1. And f of 1, you would come up here and you would say, well, that's 1 plus 1 is 2. It returns 2. So this becomes 2 right here. And this is 1 squared, and 2 plus 1 is 3. So our answer should be 3. Let's take a look at it. What was I plugging in here? I forgot. 2. Or I was plugging 1 in. Yeah, forgot what I was doing. Alright, we gotta hit run module. So g of x, that's what we gotta remember. G of 1 actually. Remember what g of 1 was equal to? Remember, it was equal to 3. It was equal to 3. Now let's do something else. I want to go up here and we're going to show you the difference between return and print. If I were to say print y, now let's see what happens this time. Let's see what happens. Got a feeling something not good's going to happen. Yeah, so we get all this mess, and that is because on the f of x we got print, and so it doesn't know what to do right when it gets to this point here. That's the reason we use return. Return y. So this is how we're going to be doing most of our code. We will be writing it inside of a custom function. So I thought I would try to get these defining custom functions out of the way. And yes, there are some rules here. For example, you can't put a 1 in front of our function, but we could put underscores if you would like. You can call this anything you want, right? Call it our first Well, we've kind of identified now the difference between getting a return and print. What else can we do with these custom functions? I believe I was calling the variable that's inside the parentheses a parameter, but if there's more than one, we call those parameters, but if it's just one, it could be just possibly known as an argument. So arguments, parameters, I don't, anyway. Let's, all right, let's define another function. We'll call it h, and we'll do several parameters. And let's do t is equal to x plus y plus z, and we'll just print out the result. Print t. So we must put in the parameters here. Well, let's just run this. All right, h. If I were to do just one, this is what we're going to get. I must place them, and of course, in order. So I got to remember the order that my x, y, and z are in. But what if I just wanted to replace this number and keep these the same, but all I want to do was type in 8? Well, there's a way of doing this. There is a way, I promise. Let's go in here and say x is equal to 3, so we're going to initialize these variables here. Y has been assigned, let's say 5, and z has been assigned 2. So we've assigned some numbers to each one of our variables. Now let's go up here and click on Run. And now, of course, we get 20. And what's happening here is we're overriding. So I've got 5 plus 7 plus 8, which happens to be, that happens to be 20. So these variables here get overridden. Okay, they override what you see here. Let's do this. Let's say all we want to change is z, and we want to keep these guys the same. So as you can see, x and y, that's 8, and then z gets overridden, and which is 8, which gives me a total of 16. So there may be times when we want to actually go ahead and initialize these guys, and then at some point in time when we're calling this custom function up, we want to go ahead and override these values, override them. So nice little handy thing that we could possibly use. And there's some other tricks that you can do with these parameters, but we'll cover them later. So this is just to get you started with writing custom functions.